Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 72 of the All in Football Fantasy Premier League Show podcast. I am your host, the self proclaimed FPL guru, Alex Rex, and joining me today are my usual suspects, Barry Stokes and Scott Williams. Scott, how are you doing today?
Yeah, good. Is that going on in our gravestone, by the way? In 50 years, more than that, actually.
Oh God. I really hope by that point it's not just self proclaimed.
No, it will be.
People actually think I know what I'm talking about, and FPL would be nice, but I don't think that's ever going to happen.
Don't worry, mate. We'll still, me and Baz will make a thing. We'll still visit you every week and do a podcast.
That's
Yeah,
nice.
we'll carve our differentials in to you.
It's the only bloody league I'm winning, I think. Isn't it? Yeah. Thank you, Scott. And Baz, how are you?
I'm good actually. I had a red arrow this week, but that was my first one. But I'm back home. I'm back in Wales.
Red Arrow caught the sun, did you?
Well, yeah, probably. Yeah. Definitely driving around in car. Yeah, Wales.
Sun cream, mate. Get that fat to 50 on your lad.
Yeah, I know. Definitely need it.
Catches the sun in December, that lad, to be fair.
I get moonburn, don't I?
Moonburn. Thank you ever so much for everyone for joining us this week in this international break, in this unique week that isn't that unique because it happens quite a few times in a season. But this week we are going to talk about football rather than FPL. After I've covered off Manager of the Week. Let's do that, shall we? Let's do Manager of the Week. And it was Sam Danby Dolby. That's what I wrote. That was right, wasn't it? Have I clicked off already? Yeah, Sam Danby Bailey. Bailey. Sam Danby Bailey. There you go. I knew I'd get something wrong, so I was trying. I had it written down. Sorry, Sam. 97 points. What a week. 2 transfers made, which were both in the bank, so there was no -4s taken. Allison in goal, Anderson and Estupinian at the back, not really getting any points, but one of the only managers who has Trent. See how that injury pans out moving forward, though. Saka, Foden, Kinder and Buemo, and Raheem Sterling not delivering this week. Triple captain for Haaland. Single captain for Haaland, but hat-trick scored. Jackson with 1 point and Alvarez with 14. It was very much the have Alvarez and not a have Alvarez week, it felt like this week in fantasy. And obviously he had Trent in addition, so well done to Sam.
Plus Matoma on bench as well. So if you had Matoma playing instead of Jackson, for example.
Yeah, absolutely. You wouldn't go against Forest at home, though, would you? But even though, you know, well done, Chelsea. But we're going to touch on Chelsea. Let's not worry about that. Manager of the Month needs awarded. And it is our favourite Hughes. Will Hughes, Manager of the Month for August, with 210 points being at Richard Kirk by 7 points. And Callum Burnett coming home in third, 14 points off the pace. Always the bridesmaid, never the bride, eh, Callum?
I wonder what Will's highlight of the week will be. Getting this award or getting married.
Oh, I mean, that's not even close, is it?
Yeah, they're definitely getting the Manager of the Month award.
Of course it is. Especially when I eventually pull my finger out and start sending people mugs or T-shirts or something. That's when we start getting some merch.
Are you going to send yourself any?
He's got to win it first.
Have you got Manager of the Month yet?
In the 2.5 years we've done the podcast, still don't think I have. No.
Ooh.
Yeah. Last week was the first time I got Manager of the Week. To be fair, but I have 1 month though. So.
And you also won the league and the cup. So actually, I think you've been all right, mate.
Yeah.
So yes, let's get talking about football, shall we? Oh, and of course, don't forget to follow us on our social media platforms: AllMorePod, AllMoreP, Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. And then like the video, subscribe to our YouTube channel, and also give us 5 stars on Spotify, wherever you get your podcast from. We've got 10 5-star reviews on Spotify. Thank you, everybody who's done that. That's very, very kind of you. Let's talk about the Manchester clubs to start with. Contrasting starts for Manchester City, Manchester United. Barry, what's working for Man City and what's not for Man United?
I think Pep's just gone right. Just kind of do what you were doing from previous seasons. There's no reinventing wheel. You've got Haaland up front that just scores like when he wants to. And obviously you've got Foden as well, Grealish, and obviously the signings that they've made as well. Very good additions and not paid over the odds like Chelsea and Casado, and we'll touch upon that shortly. But he's just a fantastic manager, and I heard it on TalkSport this morning. They were saying, who would you want to replace Southgate when he leaves? And Danny Murphy straight away was like, Pep. So obviously he can get the best out of players that you think you won't. And then I was contemplating why they signed Nunes, and there must be something there that I haven't seen. Same with like when they were linked with Paqueta, and I was like, well, he didn't look that good, but he played really well against Luton, and I actually changed my mind on that. Actually, Paqueta played really well, and don't know how he didn't get bonus points, but yeah, Man City just look unbelievable at the moment, and I might put my neck out and I say they might go all season and do Invincibles, to be honest.
Do you think so? Oh, okay,
Yeah.
fair enough. I think potentially the strength in depth might get them towards the end of the season, but yeah. And you know what it's like. They have to play. Don't they have to play Crystal Palace at the Etihad still? That's not the game they normally lose. Or Spurs last season, they were the bogey team.
Yeah.
Scott, your thoughts on City so far this season? 4 for 4, doing amazing.
Resilient is the main word. 4 from 4. I think when you take a step back, when you're up close and personal, it can be 4 from 4, fantastic. Take a step back and look at the results. They're doing what like Man City do, and what growing up we all saw Man United do. They've actually been in trouble in a lot of these games. Newcastle, they need to grind out a 1-0 win. Sheffield United, they went against 1-1 against a Sheffield United team that was creating chances. Resilient, got back into it. Man City 5-1 at the weekend. That scoreline, from what I heard and what I saw, flattered them a little bit. A goal which should never ever have been a goal given to them. It's another horrendous decision. So yeah, that kind of gave them that little bit of an edge and got them to sort of run away with it. But doing what champions do, and just grinding these results out and showing that they can do it without Pep being on the sideline as well. So yeah, just a lot of comparisons to what that prime Man United team did under Fergie. Just really, really impressive start to the season. And even if you look at the Super Cup, the one on pens, the grinding, the winners.
It's not even, the net spend was only about 100 and something million euros, which is, I don't know, like 80, 90 million quid. So they've still managed to sell play. They've not like, everyone talks about Man City spending billions and millions of pounds, but they've actually done it without spending loads. I do know that they've got, I do think that their squad's a tiny bit thin, but to compete on all fronts, I think they'll really struggle to do similar to what they did last season, just to be fighting on all fronts. That's the only thing I think. But yeah, they're just they're just champions, aren't they? Just the way they're going about things. And Haaland has scored in the same. Have you seen that stat? He's done exactly the same as he did last season, the start of this season, in terms of goals scored. So he's got another hat trick to come next week. So yeah, it's crazy, isn't it? How well they've done. Talking about anything else said on City? I'm going to say this a lot now. United. So is it all is it a doom and gloom situation, or have they just lost 2 pretty tough away games and won their 2 home games, or is there actually a problem there? Like, what's your take on United, Scott?
Yeah, again, I would say like you've got margins in football. Let's just take the last game. Garnacho inches away, millimeters away from being onside. They held on to that with a few minutes ago. They are really impressive 2-1 away win at Arsenal. He doesn't get given, goes the other way, they lose the game. They lose to a Spurs team, which I know we're going to touch on, that have looked really impressive at the start of the season. So yeah, they've lost the 2 tough games away from home. There's all things with Man United as well. There's a lot of noise going on outside. You've got you've got Antony now added into the mix with everything there. You've got the Glazers apparently looking to take the club off the market. The stock price dropping by 500 million. Lots of noise going on, and let's be honest, Man United have a poor start. Is not. It's kind of they did it a lot under Fergie as well. They're not usually great starters, Man U. Obviously, they didn't start well last year, and they've started all right. They've won, they came back to win against Forest. They beat Wolves, let's be honest, very luckily. And they've lost 2 hard away games. If someone said to you, you're going to win both your home games and lose away to Spurs and Arsenal, you're not going to be shocked here. But it's just the manner of how they've played, I think. And it's the amount of money they've spent in these individual players that are just really not showing it. Like Anthony mentioned them already, not doing anywhere near enough for me. Mason Mount does not start this season well. Højlund, whatever his name is,
yeah,
being an interesting one. You can't judge him yet. He's only played a few minutes. Being an interesting one, but I think he's soon realised very quickly that he needs to put Christian Eriksen in there. And I think Taarabt, again, I'm doing a right Paul Merson today. Taarabt, whatever his name is.
Amrabat.
Yeah, my God, nowhere near. Amrabat.
Abel Taarabt is back.
You won't forget.
You're thinking about QPR player, weren't you?
Yeah, I actually was. I think he'll add something, but underwhelming. But they've lost 2 hard away games and have got them out of the way.
Yeah, loads of injuries at the back as well, and just too much noise going on around. It was an interesting game, that Arsenal game, because literally we were the width of an arm away from beating them 2-1 and doing actually a really good job on them. Funnily enough, because they obviously had better possession than we did, but a couple of decisions in that game were a bit odd as well. Don't get me wrong, I can see the rationale for all of them, but I'm going to sound like a really bitter Man United fan, but if Saliba's not there when Gabriel grabs Højlund, then probably a pen, but he covers it. The fact that Johnny Evans was blatantly grabbed and blocked by Gabriel to the point where he had to then move him out of the way and then deflected the ball in for the Declan Rice goal was pretty tough to take. And I get all the decisions, but Saka could have been sent off for that as well. I'm not going to say they're all the wrong decisions, but if they'd have gone the other way, I don't think they could have complained too much. That's how it was in terms of a match. Tight. And we had sitters against Spurs. I actually think we've played worse in the other 2 games that we've won, which is crazy, really. But Baz, your thoughts on United before we move on?
I don't know where to start, to be honest. I'll start with Erik ten Hag. I don't understand his system, how he wants to play. I've seen it so many times. I'm like, does he want to play from back? Does he want an Arnold to ping a 70-yard ball or whatever? I'm like, I just don't get it. I think, and obviously some of the signings that Scott touched upon, I think Mount obviously not producing, Sancho obviously previous transfer, even though it wasn't, and Ten Hag's, obviously he's gave him a shot, and obviously now he's come out and said a lot of training and things like this. I don't think he's probably going to play for Man U again. I don't think, to be honest, on that one. I like the look of Højlund. Obviously, he looked like a big, strong guy. I think that's what they need. He's got more about him than obviously Weghorst did, and also he's got a bit of pace about him. So, but I don't understand where Ten Hag's saying Martial played well against Arsenal. He wants to get rid of him, didn't he? I'm just confused by whole Man United, and I can slag him off because I'm not anti-Man United. It's just I don't understand how they play in football, and how they want them to set up and deliver in the big games. So, but yeah, I think that's enough for me about Man U, to be honest.
Fair enough. Let's move on to Merseyside. That's what we'll do next. And we'll talk about a positive start of the season for Liverpool after an initial draw, but then 3 wins in a row. A quite impressive one against Aston Villa, even though Aston Villa decided they wanted to let Trent Alexander-Arnold have the freedom of Anfield for some reason and decided never to press him when he had the ball once. But I think they've looked okay and they've done all right. Smash and grab against Newcastle. Baz, your thoughts about a good start for Liverpool?
I think it's been coming for a while. I think they've been tinkering with that formation, trying to get Trent into the midfield. But obviously, how they played at the weekend, they actually put Trent as a holding midfielder to give him more defensive stability, and it looked really good. He kind of like played in like a quarterback role of such. He was just pinging passes in, and obviously they didn't press him, so that obviously makes him look even better. So. And obviously Núñez as well. I think he's going to be a start for me. I don't think he's going to be a rotation risk no more. I think the front three for me is kind of set in stone, to be honest. I think Diaz, Luis Diaz, Nunez and Salah and Jota coming off the bench because he's a super sub. He's like an Ole Gunnar Solskjaer kind of player. And Gakpo, I don't know where he fits into the system at Liverpool. And obviously Gravenberch coming in as well. So good signing if he can replicate what he did for Ajax. But yeah, I've just been really impressed with how Liverpool's gone, especially with getting rid of all them experienced players and bringing in obviously youth as well. And a bit of experience with McAllister, obviously been in the Prem, but not abundance of appearances in the Premier League. So yeah, so I've been really impressed on how Klopp's tinkered his formation to suit the defensive vulnerabilities that Liverpool have been having.
Anything to add on Liverpool, Scott, before we move on to Everton?
No, I don't think it should come as a surprise. I've just been having a look at how they ended last season. They was like unbeaten in like the last 11 games or something. So they're just kind of carrying that form on. I will say Solskjaer. I think that's probably the best pronunciation I've done of anyone so far.
Szoboszlai.
Yeah, he looks like a very good player. And from what I think maybe Henderson was holding them back. And don't get me started on the Jokerman interview he gave yesterday.
I've not listened to it yet. I've seen some.
But he didn't go for money, Alex. He didn't go for money.
It's just a load of nonsense.
Meant to obviously help Saudi football.
I mean, I haven't listened. I've just seen some quotes, and I've just cringed. I've kind of been holding off, to be honest. We definitely no surprise. I think Klopp rubs a lot of people up the wrong way, but I think he's done a pretty fantastic job, to be honest. Again, I think some of the signings are really good. I think the way he's sorting the team out tactically is good. He's getting there with this new system. I think he's just obviously one of the best managers in the world for a reason.
I think fair play really quickly to Mo Salah as well. He doesn't seem like a player that gets distracted by everything going on, and everything you hear from him is like he trains unbelievably well, and that I think just fair enough for that.
Delivers again, attacking return after attacking return. Never doesn't deliver. It's unbelievable.
Apparently, they haven't even had a conversation, Klopp and Salah, about even Saudi. They haven't even entertained it. So
good, and as it should be. Really, it's not giving them any more bloody money. They can wash. And players, Everton are 1 point scored so far, and that was a draw at Sheffield United after 3 initial losses. Scott, doomed?
I've literally just been having this conversation on the way back home with a colleague that's an Everton fan. Definitely not doomed. 100% not doomed. I know you boys mentioned on the last week's podcast, but they're creating loads of chances. Actually, don't look a bad team to watch. I know they've scored twice in 3 games or whatever, 4 games, which is quite surprising thing to say. But actually, they look all right. I don't think long term their problem's going to be at going forward. I feel like Beto looks like a decent player. I feel like you will start converting chances. What would worry me as an Everton fan is that defence. It looks really sort of weak. They've lost, people like Mina. Didn't take Cody up for 4 million. They've got, Seamus Coleman's out for a long, long time. It would defensively would be a worry, which you wouldn't usually say about a Sean Dyche team. And it took a world class double save from Pickford to get him a point. But I still think they'll be fine. I feel like there's a few weaker. I feel like it's 3 weaker teams than them.
They need Branthwaite to do well, don't they? Centre half next to Tarkowski.
Yeah.
Baz, Everton, thoughts?
Quite similar to Scott, but I think they'll be there or thereabouts at the end of the season. Probably 17th or maybe even potentially 18th. I think Burnley's looking a bit more going forward, better than them. I think if Kompany sorts his head out and actually goes, we can't play from the back and start actually defending better, then they'll probably stay up more than Everton. Better look good. Can't argue with that. Danjuma obviously delivered, but I just can't see it. I think they got, like I say, got lucky against Sheffield United, and Sheffield United looked really good, and Archer ran the show, to be honest, against an Everton defence that is very vulnerable. And I think it's probably going to potentially stay that way And I can't see him really improving. I think the only shining light I can really see is that Beto guy, to be honest.
Yeah, I still don't trust him to score goals. Putting himself about a bit when I watched the Sheffield United game, and he was putting himself about. He was doing a really, really good job of everything, but one of his finishes was worse than mine. It was awful. So we'll wait and see on his finishing, I think. But yeah, I don't disagree with you. We might as well stick down at the bottom end of the table and talk about the newly promoted clubs. Only 1 point so far between the lot of them. I know Burnley and Luton were supposed to play each other, but obviously that game at Luton didn't happen. Is it too much of a step up for these guys, really? Or have you seen any green shoots with any of them, Baz?
As I touched upon with Burnley, I think going forward, they're looking good. Brownhill obviously came on and obviously scored as well. Looked quite good when he came on. Foster's in good form as well. So it's just they're trying to do how they played in the Championship and trying to put that into obviously Premier League. And if you make a mistake, you're going to get punished. Luton's found that. Sheffield United's found that. All these lower teams that we talked about in the pre-season chat from 12 down, if you make a mistake and a big mistake, you're going to get punished. Even if you're Man City or whoever, you're still going to get punished from it, especially against the top-class people. You're probably not going to get punished against Everton, but because obviously they couldn't score for a toffee, but they scored 2. So for me, I probably would say Burnley's probably got the better chance. Because of how they play, they're quite expansive and looking good going forward. They just need to obviously solid it up at the back. Luton-wise, the chairman was on TalkSport the other day, and he was saying it's the biggest task he's had, and that's obviously he's gone through a couple of leagues as well, because the proof of class is so different. He's in a Man City's in this pot of buying players, then everyone else is in this pot, and then there's Luton that's going for like the 1 to 5 million pot and Championship quality pot, basically. So, and they don't want to spend that extra money. So technically, they're bottom in my eyes with that, and he's kind of already near enough admitted a defeat there. Sheffield United wise, obviously Archer's their shining light. To be honest, if you give him the animation, I think he'll fire. But can they keep the clean sheets? Because he conceded 2 against a firing blank Everton.
Yeah, I don't see. And I think my biggest gripes I have about all these teams that come up from the Championship. I know this sounds really like dinosaur-y, but like they always come up and everyone talks about how Kompany plays his style and does this, and this is his style, and it works really, really well, and this, that, and the other. Like, I mean, it worked for Wilder and Bielsa for one season, and then knackered them the next, and then a lot of these teams try and do it straight away, and it just they won't change. They don't change.
Plus as well, sorry to blame. They have to start well. If you don't start well, it can soon turn on you, and then you're thinking, oh, I've got to pick up some more points, and then it comes to the 6 pointers. They're even talking about the Everton Sheffield United as a 6-point game.
Yeah,
I think what 4th game in.
It's the fixtures after that do that, don't it? Scotty, it's golf too far. Green shoots. What do you think?
Luton, Burnley,
or Luton, Burnley, and Sheffield United.
Yeah, Luton. Yeah, I think we already said they've done really well in the transfer market to plan for next year. Fair play. Anything. I think for them, just get more points than Derby did, and they'll be fine. They look like a better team than that Derby team. I remember that Derby team; they were woeful. I don't think they'll stay up, but it is what it is. It'll be a fun season for Luton Town, and their fans fully deserve it. Burnley, I'm not as confident as Baz is. They've played 3 home games. They've lost 3 home games. Granted, 2 of them were Villa, Man City, and Spurs, tough games. But I agree with what you said, Alex. I think for Kompany as well. I watched a fair few Burnley games last year. They played really, really well, and like you said, they kind of want to come up and do that as well. And you certainly can to an extent, but I think Kompany more so is like because he's a Premier League winner. He's a big player. He kind of wants to show people what his teams can do in the Premier League. So I think as long as he's got a plan B, in a plan C, and he's not going to be afraid to use that. I feel like Burnley will be okay, but I feel they'll be a bit disappointed in that start to the season, if I'm honest. Leaking a lot of goals. I feel like you can look at that Villa game at home and be, really thinking you should be picking 3 points up. I know Villa are a good team these days, but yeah, and Spurs as well. You want to be trying to at least get a point there, especially when you go 1-0 up early in the game. So yeah, I would be a little bit more worried for Burnley. And Sheffield United have looked, I think, a little bit better than I expected. I think I agree. I think Archer is a good little buy for him. But again, not an ideal start. I think that their opening game against Palace, that was a big disappointment losing that. They've got to start off well there. But I think there's going to be a few. I think the Premier League is a bit weak this year. Like I look at Burnley, Luton, Everton, Sheffield United, Bournemouth, Wolves, and I'm going to touch on some of them in a minute. Potentially even a Nottingham Forest. There's a lot of teams down there that I don't think I can put my hat on and confidently say anyone's going to stay up. So I think that's why I think Everton, for instance, will stay up. So I think it's just 3 weaker teams.
I totally agree. That whole bottom 6, throwing Fulham, Forest. You've got 3 from those 8 teams that could easily go down, I think, there. You touched on Spurs, Scott, so let's talk about the teams that have had new managers this season. And generally speaking, it's been a bad start for them, but let's talk about the success story. And Ange Ball, Spurs, 11 goals scored, 4 conceded, so 1 per game, 10 points so far. First draw was against Brentford. They've won all 3 since. Flash in the pan, new season start, new manager bounce, or is this something that a Spurs real contenders this season, Scott?
Yeah, it's an interesting one. Spurs have started seasons well before. Let's not forget that. And it's only 4 games in, and but they have looked really good. It's a totally different direction they've gone in this year, and they've gone for I love the manager. I don't think anyone could not love him. He just says it as it is. And I love it because I hate all this football like generic talk and all that. He's just so honest with it. I love that when someone asks him about Madison, 40 million or whatever bargain, he's like, 40 million? What world are you living in? How is that ever a bargain in anything? But he's such a real guy. And the back to play him, there was a few years ago under like Harry Redknapp, they were like certainly one like my kind of like Prem team. I loved watching them play. They had such attacking flow in football, and so they went away with that when they they had Mourinho and Conte. So it's good to see them back. It feels like as well there's a few players that might have gone. Do you know what? Harry Kane's gone. Let me step up and be the big man. Son, captain's armband. I think that's a really really smart thing to do. By the way, give him the armband. Go look. You're the main man now. Madison's come in. And he's looked like he's played in that team for years. He's a fantastic player. So yeah, I don't think when you say contenders, I mean certainly not Premier League title contenders for me. Do not have the strength and depth for one. But I think they'll be sniffing Champions League. Absolutely sniffing Champions League this season. Yeah.
Sorry.
I agree. We're top 4. I think they've got a good shout of it. Obviously, Son looked like he's come back to his best and through the middle. Solomon played really well as well. The only thing I've got with him is defensively, because they play so expansive. That's the only issue I've got with Ange Ball. But looking at him going forwards, it's like the old Galactico, isn't it? It's like we'll score more than you kind of motto. And with the players they've got, I wouldn't obviously disagree. I think the only probably team that'll probably outscore them is probably City and Liverpool, probably, I think. So with that, I think they're not really challenging for the league. I think probably the best team that's going to do that is probably Liverpool. I don't think Arsenal's in the bracket in my eyes. I think they've been lucky a few times, especially against Man United at the weekend and Forest as well. So yeah, I think Ange Ball, and I said last pod that I think Ange might get Manager of the Year. So
I know I said on that podcast I thought it was a massive error from Postecoglou and something that's a little bit unforgivable really from a Spurs perspective to play such a weakened team in the Carabao Cup. I know Baz, you disagreed with that. Scott, briefly on that. Do you think that's a mistake that he's made this year, or do you think that's totally fair enough and it is what it is?
Hindsight's a beautiful thing, isn't it? I feel like the players he played still had a real chance of winning that game. So I agree with. I don't like doing it. I agree with Baz. I feel like you're really enough in the season. Just get them playing. This should be absolutely fine, especially with this. A lot of them will be rested this week as well. So 5 games at the start of the season, and a lot of them get a little rest. Yeah, I wouldn't change it too much.
Yeah.
Plus, he's got rid of Deadwood as well. Sanchez is gone, so they might be vulnerable at the centre half position because obviously Sanchez has gone to Galatasaray, and Ndombele has gone on loan as well. So that is obviously freed up, obviously for Sarr and Højbjerg and obviously Basuma to play in centre midfield. But
yeah, quick shout to Basuma there. Definitely, he's been brilliant this season. Though.
I'm saying that most of all the attacking players playing on the front foot have been really good. I think Van der Ven's been quite good as well. Oro going forward, Dougie as well. So, yeah, I mean, even Romero's played quite well, to be honest, and he hasn't looked as brash as he usually is.
Yeah, well, he's not getting sent off. He's a quality defender, to be fair, Romero. We've got to ask the question because AD Chips asked us to ask it. Quick, better or not better? Scott, Baz, are Spurs better without Harry Kane?
No.
Go on, Baz.
Yeah, with the manager.
Yeah, but how you want to know what Kane would have been like with this
well,
manager?
Yeah, there was that, but obviously, I think other people were in Harry Kane's shadow. They were like going, well, I'm back because we've got Kane. Get Kane, so we'll be fine.
Do you remember last year when everyone was saying, when Haaland is at a bet with or without Haaland? I feel like this might come back to bite you in the bum, Baz. I think this might be a really, really embarrassing moment for you. But that's fine. It's fine. As long as you can look at a little girl in the face, it's fine.
Well, she told me to pick Tony, so.
Oh gosh, she did as well. Let's not talk about that yet. The 3 teams that have got new managers that haven't done so well are Chelsea, Wolves, and Bournemouth. How do we see them faring moving forward, Baz? What do you think?
I think I'll start with Chelsea. I think obviously with all the players they've signed, and they're all young and inexperienced players. I think they've got time to gel and things like that. So they'll be there or thereabouts for Europa League. I don't think they're going to be there for the top 4. But everyone's seen it. The whole world can see it. Where's the centre forward? They spent all this money. Jackson is frustrating to watch because he does so well. He gets in some certain positions and that. Was it the Forest miss? Oh my god! It was like Sissam when he's on the line and he's hit it over. It was like that. Why is he stretching for that shot? It's so frustrating.
Snatching, no composure, terrible.
Sterling's a shining light for me on that one, and I still don't understand why they bought Sanchez instead of David Raya. I don't get it. Sanchez is Brighton, probably number 2, even number 3, probably, and Raya was Brentford's number 1.
It's because they've got the old goalkeeper coach from Brighton, and they've Potter's old backroom staff still there, and they've recommended Sanchez and this, that, and the other. So there's still some Brighton left at Chelsea. But there's a lot of Brighton at Chelsea actually. There's like £200 million worth of Brighton at Chelsea. But still, that's why it's there.
Fulham, I think they've really been unlucky with VAR. I think the Ream sending off and the penalty, the Akanji situation. Okay. I feel sorry for Silva. To be honest, obviously Mitro going as well. Who you can't really replace that kind of player. He was like a god at Craven Cottage, and you've got Raul Jimenez who hasn't scored for about 20 odd games. So that's the only issue they've got. They had all these goals last season with Mitrovic. Are they going to replace that? And then obviously Leno's played really well because they've conceded 10. It could have been 22.
It's funny. I don't know. We got on to talk about Fulham here because we're talking about new managers. How have we got on to talk about Fulham?
Oh, right, sorry, my bad. Yeah,
I just rolled.
Because you're below them on table. You've got table on there. Sorry.
That's fine. No, sorry.
Right,
I agree with all that though.
Wolves.
Fulham, I don't know what's going to happen with them yet. So yeah, Wolves, Bournemouth, go.
Wolves, sorry. So Wolves, I think they're still going to be in the same situation. They're a selling club at the moment and not really buying anyone. Podence has gone to Olympiacos on loan. Didn't really want to play. Surprised my friend Johnny didn't go. So I just don't. I can't see it really. Cunha's not really clinical enough. Like I say, I think they'll be there or thereabouts as well. I tipped them for relegation, and I'm probably going to they'll stay the same. Yes, they played really well against Man United, but we've seen now that that's not hard to do. Especially, it's like a warm knife through butter through their midfield, and I think Amrabat might obviously assist Casemiro with that because he looked a bit leggy and looks like he's had a bit too much Christmas pudding a bit early on. So Bournemouth wise, I don't really know, to be honest. I thought Kluivert thought it was a great signing for him, but he hasn't really done much. Brooks has looked really good. Solanke's looked obviously good, but he always does. Because the thing is with Bournemouth, if Solanke plays well, Bournemouth play well. If Solanke plays bad, then they're in a world of pain. And Neto is obviously a very good goalkeeper for him. He saves obviously more than what goes in, as a goalkeeper should. But yeah, I think they're probably in trouble as well. So, but
do you not feel like Scott? Do you feel like them two will just end up staying up just because there's other teams that are worse? Wolves and Bournemouth.
I think Wolves will stay up because they've got a manager that knows how to keep a team in the Premier League. I think again, I agree they'll stay up because the team's worse. I think losing Matheus Cunha is a massive blow. My days, really big blow.
Yeah,
but they've beat Everton away already this season. They shouldn't have lost to Man United. Got hammered by a decent Brighton team. I don't think they'll be doing wonders, but I think they'll just about do enough. Bournemouth, just to touch on them again, similar bracket to Wolves. Yeah, so I agree with what you said there, Alex. I think they'll just about do enough. The managers come with a decent record. From what I've seen, they play some all right football as well. So I think they'll be all right. And then just really quickly put my 2 cents in for Chelsea.
Do it, please, yeah. And maybe do Fulham while you're there.
Yeah, Fulham. Yeah, the new manager Silva's done really well. Chelsea. Yeah, I don't think we can judge them on 4 games. Poch has had a really tough job to come in. I look at that Chelsea squad, and it reminds me of what the Everton squad looked like a few years ago when someone went, "There's been 250 million spent on this." Where? It's pretty sickening. What I will say is, because I don't really think Man City get much wrong when they sell, especially like Pep. I feel like Parma's going to flop. Because they just Man City get rid of players and they don't seem to do well elsewhere. It's weird. It's just a lot of money to spend on Parma, who's looked bright in a few games. But yeah, it's a wait and see for me for Pochettino. Give him till Christmas. I think there's a decent chance they could still be challenging Champions League. Because they've got no European commitments this season. How long's Nkunku out for? Is he out for a while?
Is it December, was that something?
December, yeah. So I think getting him back will be really good. And
he was the striker that was supposed to score the goal, wasn't he?
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, I mean, he's done brilliant at Leipzig, the last couple of years, goals, assists. He's a confident player as well. So yeah, him, and then when they bring in, the Brighton striker in for 200 million in January.
Oh, Evan's coming out.
Evan Ferguson, yeah. So that'll give him a bit of firepower up there.
I think when Broha comes back from injury as well, I think he might have a shot to play, I think, for Chelsea as well, to be honest.
Well, they need to have a shot at some point. Yeah, it's for Chelsea just a bit off, really. But you never know, do you? And you know what I think about Bournemouth anyway. They sacked Gary O'Neill, so I just want them to crash and burn, to be honest. I hate it when managers get sacked for that sort of reason. I still have a bad taste in my mouth about Brighton over Chris Hughton, to be honest. And it's just these. I mean, they've done amazing since. I mean, it's all nonsense, but And they sack a manager, and I'm like, just doesn't deserve it. Why has he lost his job? Anyway.
Scott, so you're saying Zinni and Jesus hasn't done well since left?
They didn't win the league, did they?
Done all right. I don't think they've particularly pulled trees up there, mate. To be honest with you.
What have they won?
Yeah, I think Jesus he looked really good for like the first 5 games, and I feel like we might be a bit blindsided by how well he started. He's not scored as many goals as I would expect for a striker. And Zinchenko, speaking to sort of Davy Burns, who's a big Arsenal fan, he's not a particularly big fan of Zinchenko. He might be. He might really call me out on this, but I'm pretty sure he's not a big Zinchenko fan.
I agree with you, Scott. I think Zinchenko's underperformed. No, I don't think he was. I don't think he's been that great. I think again everyone's really blindsided by the first 5 games, but then he got injured, and then I think he's been actually quite bang average and a little bit embarrassing since when they went behind in that game, and he was like, "Come on, everybody, we can all do really well." No one wanted to see that, mate. To be honest, you're obviously not a motivator and a leader in the dressing room because everyone looked at you like you just spat in the porridge, and then. Yeah, I mean, Jesus is a good signing because he's going to link the play well and they'll get goals from Saka and Martinelli. But, I mean, I don't think City are going to miss not having him. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I agree on that one, but I just thought they were decent additions to a weak Arsenal team and made them a lot stronger.
Well, to be fair, they probably made them better. Yeah, that's not wrong, is it? They have definitely made them better. Let's discuss the rest of the clubs that are currently in European football this season, which is quite a lot of them. So we'll motor through these guys. Let's start with the ones that have started really well. Arsenal obviously is a talking point when you talk about their signings. West Ham and Brighton in this top half, with Villa, of course. Villa are 10th. Who's really impressed you from these guys' teams? Let's try to talk about a few players that have really stood out and maybe key signings. So. Baz, West Ham, Arsenal, Brighton, Villa, the top half ones, for example, start with.
So West Ham, I think they've spent the Rice money really well. James Ward-Prowse, I don't know why no one else really picked him up. To be honest, it was quite a steal. They were saying, "Oh yeah, he's overpriced" and things like that in this market. As obviously, Ange will disagree with me, but I think it's a bargain. So it's one of them. So obviously with the delivery of how West Ham play, with obviously the big tall lads to get on the corners and set pieces, it's no brainer. Alvarez is a very good holding midfielder. He's not going to get you points in fantasy football, but is a good link between the defence and the midfield, and he's a really good asset for that. Antonio's looked really well as well. He's looked like he's got a new lease of life, and I thought he was actually.
He's looked well. Hasn't he?
Yeah.
Oh, bless him.
Yeah, he doesn't look ill.
He put it in his green.
He doesn't look pale, put it that way. So, so with that, he's done really well. And I think Bowen as well. I think Paqueta, as I touched upon earlier, I think he looked really, really well.
Is there anyone you're not going to mention in their team? Because to be honest, you're totally right. I mean, you're going to go to Areola, I'm sure, because he's done very well.
Potentially, yeah, and I'm going to go to Zuma as well. So, yeah.
Well, we can't say anything positive about that.
Started really well,
but yeah.
To be honest, it's probably not going to. They started at what? Did he start off well last season as well, and then just faded? I'm pretty confident.
Just did rubbish, didn't they?
Yeah, well, yeah. Apart from in Europa Conference League. Arsenal wise, obviously getting Rice, Rice, baby. Gets obviously the goal. Havertz, no, can't play in that formation at all. And I don't understand what they were trying to do with Partey at right back as well. They should have just stuck with the same back four. I know Zinchenko was injured at the start of the season, and he was playing that game for Ukraine or whatever it was. So Arsenal wise, yeah, they're okay, but I think they're like a Tottenham bottle job. I don't think they're going to win anything. I think they'll be there or thereabouts, but I don't think they'll get second. I think they'll probably get third. To just look a bit too vulnerable.
Bit of naivety in that Fulham game, wasn't it, as well?
Yeah, I'm glad he's gone back to obviously Gabriel. Being a Gabriel owner, I'm quite happy with that. So I don't have to sell him and panic and do my wild card this week that I was talking about to you two about. So with that, it's good. But the person that I've been impressed with who's come off the bench is Fabian Vieira. I think he should start above Havertz. And in our draft, I'm probably going to leak some information. I would get him in a transaction. To be honest, I think if Arteta starts Havertz, I've given up with football. I don't know where he's seeing. what he sees, because he goes into the space where Martinelli wants to get into with the inside channel. So yeah, I don't understand that. Brighton are just Brighton. They just performed. He had a little blip against West Ham, and obviously I thought that was it, because I said they weren't going to carry on the good form, and I thought, well, that's it. I thought, yeah, I'm right here like that, and then they're going to spank Newcastle. So yeah, and we asked Stupian as well. I'm thinking, yeah, I've got a clean sheet here, and I looked at it like, after the game, I'm like, when did Wilson score? So I lost obviously points on that. But yeah, March, been really impressed with him. Ferguson's obviously got a bit of a knock. So he would be a really good player. João Pedro, I'm not really impressed with, so he'll probably be one of the transfers I'll be getting out. Aston Villa, been impressed with them. I think it was just a little blip against Newcastle. I think they had all these players that they wanted to put in, and I think Emery was trying to sort of balance the team, and Mings getting injured as well hasn't helped issues. But
do you not think they were rubbish against Liverpool as well? Do you not think that's a worry? Because I mean, like, I know on the Villa side of things, we talk about them a little bit non-negative, but I just think I was shocked by how tactically rubbish they were against Liverpool. Yeah, and that shocked me for an Emery team, because I really rate Emery.
I just think this. I was raving about the Pau Torres thing, and I just think I think he gets a bit bullied a bit too much in this league. I think, yeah, he's good on ball, but when he goes up against, like, for example, Højlund against Gabriel at the weekend, obviously Gabriel knew he was in the game then instead of Martial. So yeah, so with that, I think that's why Pau Torres is not obviously a good sign for mine. I think he's been really poor, to be honest. Digne and Cash look really good going forward. Defensively wise, probably a bit vulnerable there. Obviously been really impressed with my potential signing for the season, Diaby. I think he's done really well. And Watkins, I don't know what's happened to him. Yeah, he scored a hat-trick against Hibs. I think I might be able to get one against Hibs. But yeah, it's they're there or thereabout, and I think 10 sums them up really. This start of this season, they've played really well in one games, and they're a Jekyll and Hyde team at the moment. As easy way to put it.
Scott, your boys, obviously West Ham doing really well to start the season. You know, anything to add on? Any talking points on the four teams Baz has just talked about?
I don't think there's too much to add, is there? I think Baz is
pretty comprehensive, Baz.
Pretty comprehensive.
Sorry.
No, it was good. It was good.
All I will say is, going by informs on FIFA and Team of the Year cards, Mohamed Kudus is going to be quite a buy for West Ham. He's going to be a really exciting winger. So that's going to be a good one to look at for them. I'm really happy my boys started well. I think it was not last season, the season before, Baz, when Antonio started really well. Him and Ben Rama, wasn't it?
It was. That was it. Same time as Dominic Calvert-Lewin and James Rodriguez. That was
last time they played, was it?
Yeah, those were back in the day. They were goal and assist in every game, like the first four or something of that season. It was unbelievable. Just on Newcastle then, Scott, we'll come to you. Is the last 3 losses in a row worrying, or is it the fact that they lost to City, Liverpool, and Brighton not that worrying? Or what do you think?
I think it's. I think when you've got aspirations and you finish third in the league, when you lose 3 in a fourth in the league.
Yeah, another team beat them last season.
Yeah, oh yeah. Do you know? I always get in my head. It's like Man U second and Newcastle third. I forgot Arsenal nearly won the league. Yeah, when you finish fourth, I feel like three losses in a row, regardless of who you play, it has to be a certain amount of worrying. Yes, the way they lost to Liverpool, there was for a large. I think the red card killed them. They were they were the better team with 11 men, 11 versus 11. I would be a little bit concerned. What we liked last year about Newcastle was the free-flowing football and their attacking, which looked like it was there. 5-1 win on the opening game. Everything seemed normal. And then they've gone and scored 2 goals in 3 games. Yes, Man City, tough team. Liverpool, tough team. But a Liverpool team that had 10 players. So you're then playing against like a Bournemouth with 11, if that makes sense. And then, Brighton are doing well, but I would be a little bit concerned. I'm glad there's no noise about Eddie Howe's job.
Oh God, can you imagine?
Like that. I think this is probably this international break's come at the right time.
Do you think it'll get worse with the Champions League after it, though, Scott? What do you think? How do you think that'll impact them?
It's a tough one. It could go either way because
the group's horrendous, isn't it?
The group's horrendous, but what you're going to want there is you've got these amazing games that these players are going to want to be involved in. They're going to be wanting Eddie Howe to pick them to play these incredible games against AC Milan and was it PSG and someone else?
Dortmund.
Dortmund, yeah, they want to be playing that. So you've got to think that's got to drive performances in the Premier League as well. What it does as well is when they've had a bad performance, they can bounce back straight away, because they've got 2-3 days towards the next one. But also it can hinder them if they're getting pumped by Mbappe and then they lose 2-1 away to Sheffield United or something like that. That's when the concern might start kicking in. But I think Gary Neville had a good point towards the end of last year. They're ahead of where they would think they would be. I think like Europa League, Europa Conference League would have been probably where they thought they would be about now. Therefore, if they have a season where they finish in the top 6, that shouldn't be seen as a particular failure. It's probably more stagnating a little bit. So don't jump to any conclusions. But again, it's only been a few games. My God, a few weeks ago in the opening game of the season, we were like, Newcastle, they're going to challenge Man City for the league, blah, blah, blah. And then they've had a couple of iffy performances. But no, be concerned, but I think they've got the right man to turn it around.
I would agree. I think as long as the top 6, it'll be okay. And you know what? If they can get third in that group, in the Champions League group, and make it into the Europa League, and then have a run there, I think that'd be fantastic. I mean, that'd be a really good point for their season.
I mean, PSG take Mbappe out of there now. They're not that scary, are they? Let's be honest.
Dortmund are beatable, and
yeah,
it's they're not doing that well. So. Yeah, look, it's doable. Newcastle have got it in the bag. I just think all of those teams we've just talked about. I mean, Arsenal have obviously got the strength in depth across the board, really, but they weren't in the Champions League last year. So let's see how that happens. Brighton, be really interesting to see what sort of team they play in the Europa League, because I'm sure they'll play strong teams, because I think their fan base will demand it. Be interested. And then Villa's had a lot of injuries for strength in depth. I mean, as boring as this statement is, it's definitely a wait and see on pretty much all these teams, like how it's going to really affect them. So great news for West Ham having a good start again, and Brighton, because being up there now is good, because they'll have to do some rotating over the next period of time. Palace, Brentford and Forest, the last 3 teams that we haven't talked about.
Just on Newcastle for a sec.
Of course you can, Bob.
Yeah. So the only 2 players that played really well, Tonali and Gordon, both your players, Alex and Scott. Mm-hmm. So that proves how bad Newcastle's been. But if you look at the games, they played Villa away and they won quite convincingly. And then Man City, Liverpool, Brighton, 3 big games. But if they want to be challenging for the top 4 or even a title, because Stuart Pearce backed them to win the league. Strangely enough, I don't know why.
You've been in the car too much, listened too much.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so he backed him.
Piers Morgan is backed him to win the league.
No, Stuart Pearce.
Oh, right. I thought you said Pierce, as in like you were first naming him like your best mate.
No, Stuart Pearce backed Newcastle to win the league, and I just couldn't say it, to be honest. But obviously, they've got a good run of games coming up. Obviously, Europe coming up, so that helps them a lot to potentially. They probably won't rotate as much, I don't think, because obviously they want to do well in the Champions League, because obviously they've been 10 plus years out of Europe, maybe even more. Yeah. So they want to do well in it and stay in it for the fan base, because I think that's a focus for them, and it's good for money. But yeah, I think that's the main issue. The defense looks ropey. Pope's throwing balls to strikers. Yeah, it's not looking good defensively, but I think these next fixtures will help them.
All I will say is about 14 years ago, my team was beating them in the league. So yeah, different ways we've gone.
Shout out to Scunny.
Top of the league. Let's go.
Let's do it. Looking forward to Scarborough away. So I'm going to sort out the charge. I'm not missing that. I can't wait. Palace. I'm just about to drive the kids to their parents myself. Palace, Brentford and Forest are all missing key players. Zaha, Tony and Johnson. They are all performing well, though. Had good starts to the season, if you can click the right thing. 7 points, 6 points, and 6 points. Really briefly on those guys. Any notable players? Any surprises? Anyone really impressed you, Scott?
Palace. I think they're just going to do what Palace do under Roy. You know, I don't think they're going to do a new brand of football or anything revolutionary. What I would say is a couple of Mateta played really well. It looked like at the weekend he did 2 fantastic assists. Really, really skillful skips. Yeah, like really impressive. So, like, you know, have they got a little partnership with him and Edouard? 2 really underwhelming players over the last couple of years. So
I haven't seen the highlights of that game yet. It's the only game I've not seen highlights of. Also, I can't wait to watch this. I wasn't even going to bother.
Fantastic, mate. Watch him. So yeah, that's probably be my big sort of takeaway from that. Who were the other 2 teams you mentioned? Sorry,
just Brentford and Forest.
Brentford and Forest.
We're in 7th, 8th, and 9th here to wrap up.
Cool. So Brentford again, just doing Brentford things.
Unbeaten.
Yeah, and again, we're probably taking them for granted a bit, and we need to really take stock. It's Brentford. It's still a really small club doing really, really good things. Like you say, I think, you know, from a, you know, Mbeumo has done really well. Visa has done really well. I won't say the other guy because Baz is in love with him. Baz can touch on him in a moment. And
our Kevin.
Yeah. And yeah, Forest. I mean, wow, what a victory at the weekend. I'm a big Steve Cooper fan. I like him. I like the way he sort of goes about his business. I like his attitude and the way he speaks. And yeah, that was a fantastic result for them. Onwami again seemed like he played it. Obviously, he'd gone like 7-8 games scoring in a row. Obviously, he didn't against Chelsea. It was a fantastic goal by ex-Man United Alanga.
Great signing.
Really, by the way, obviously I know he's Swedish. I guess he was born and raised in this country because he did not sound Swedish in the interview. It really confused me.
No, it's been with us for years.
Yeah, but yeah, a really good start. Obviously, unlucky away at Man United not to get anything from that game as well. Doing what they had to do at home to Sheffield United. Never going to beat Arsenal away, but looked all right. Yeah, really good start for Forest this season.
Baz, your thoughts?
So I'll start with Palace. So, I mean, defensively, they sound, but obviously most Hodgson's teams are. I think the first game when they played against Arsenal, it was very hard to break down, especially at Selhurst Park as well. So defensive assets are probably a go-to, a potential rotation option. Issue in goal, obviously Henderson's side now and Johnston. So it could be Henderson will probably start, I think, because he wouldn't have gone there otherwise. As Scott touched on, Mateta did well when he came on. Edouard, Eze, and Ayew's been really well as well. I think they're people to look at it on FPL basis. Brentford, as obviously my lover Sharda, he's been playing really well. He's been playing well for quite a while, to be fair, but he hasn't really been putting in the points. But now he's got that first goal in his belt, I think he's going to potentially shine, and I think he's probably going to get more ownership. Rico Henry at the back and Flecken as well. He started a bit shaky against Tottenham, but obviously he's looking really well now. So and
also healthy.
Yeah, he's also healthy. Yeah, so and Forest, obviously, I live in Nottingham, so I know a lot of Forest fans, and obviously the situation with Worrell as well. And he played the game was really good, and I listened to him speak on, would you believe it, TalkSport, and he did a really good speech on it. 10:30 yesterday, if you want to listen back to it. But yeah, I think they're not going to miss Johnson at all, because back in the season he wasn't really in the team when they played really well and kept themselves up. So, and the money that they've bought, the players that they bought with that money as well. What was it, that PSV player Sanghera? He's a very good midfielder. I've seen him against Rangers, and he looks really good. And I think Forest will probably finish 10th or 11th. I don't think they'll be nowhere near relegation this season. I think they've signed some really good players. Bolly's played really well at the back, looks solid, looks like he did for Wolves when he kept banging in loads of points. Serge as well at right back. Defensively, he's looked actually a lot better than what he did at Spurs, and if you give him time, Beckham-esque crosses into the box for a 1 year to get on the end. I just think, and obviously I'm an avid Cooper fan. He was a Swansea manager, so, and I was gutted that we didn't sign a new contract and give him that everything under the sun. And when he went, everyone was asking me opinions on Cooper, and I says, you'd be very lucky. You're extremely lucky to have him. He's a great manager. He'll transfer your club from top to bottom. He wants to know everything and everything. And yeah, so I probably raved a bit too much about that. So.
No, with the 13, 14 months in the Premier League, and he's built an entirely new team and squad, got them to survive, and then had this really good start. I mean, fair play at Cooper. If you don't rate him, you don't know what you're talking about, in my opinion. I think he's been fantastic. I know everyone on this podcast agrees with that. It's just that there's everyone's opinion on that. He's just on class. Let's just finish off on maybe a couple of other talking points. Maybe just one other. Let's talk about VAR, shall we? Let's do a bit of refereeing and VAR, because I think we've already seen a few howlers this season, but we've also seen some really good implementation of it. Scott, where do you stand with where we're up to with the technology? Do you think we're taking steps forward? Do you think we're just stuck? How do you find your viewing experience of the game?
There's been some good implementation of it, but there should be some good implementation of it 100% of the time. If my job is to be that VAR person and I'm doing obvious things, if I'm doing that in my job, I'm getting taken into a room on Monday morning and having a chat with me, having a disciplinary, and and just not doing your job. I don't think we've certainly not gone forward with VAR. Absolutely not. I think some of the decisions this season, like seasons gone by, we're looking at interpretations of maybe like the handball rule when it's potentially like a little bit airy fairy. These are just obvious decisions and they're disgraceful. Like say the one where the ball's gone under Rodri's, I don't know, under Akanji's legs. You can see the goalkeeper hesitate because he thinks that he's going to get involved as a normal human reaction and therefore delays his dive, so therefore does not get the ball. It's a disgrace of a decision. That's the kind of things where VAR needs to be just saying, yeah, he's interfered with the ball. Like, I think we've gone back. I don't know, I'm up to a point now. I support a club that's nowhere near at a point where VAR is ever used in our game. I'm at a point now where I wish you would just get rid of it.
I think for me, if they could automate offsides,
yeah,
then that'd be great. Because take it from a guy that actually celebrated Garnacho's goal and then had to sit himself back down, it ruins that for me. It's just and then the rest of it's just an on to me. If you listen to the interview that Howard Webb's done with Michael Owen, there's some really good stuff in there, like some really good audio that you listen to, and you realise how. But it's all worth listening to, the thought processes. The other thing I would recommend listening to is I listen to a podcast, and I listen to you talk about your show that you like to listen to about TalkSport. Simon Jordan does a podcast, though, the William Hill, it's like Straight Talking or something it's called. I can't remember which one it is. But he did one with Mike Dean, and I'm not the biggest Simon Jordan fan. I think I'd enjoy a beer with him because I think I find him quite interesting to speak to, but I don't think he'd ever be my friend. But at the same time, I think that Mike Dean podcast was really, really insightful because it basically made you realise how almost poor the referees are, how heavily influenced they are, and how bad they are. And I know that wasn't his intention in it, but you could hear from some of the comments he made how heavily influenced, they are by stuff that's on the pitch or stuff that's in the media, or giving too many free kicks or giving too many. Like we always talk about, like the Trent situation at Newcastle, like the fact he should have had a second yellow card, but the fact is that they know he shouldn't have had a first yellow card because it was a foul, but everybody knew that because of the technology before that second incident had happened. If that makes sense. That makes sense, doesn't it? So everybody knew that Trent shouldn't have had a yellow card before he then committed that second infringement. And after listening to the Mike Dean podcast, I guarantee that's why he didn't get a second yellow card, because it's in their heads. they don't make just a clear decision on it. It's generally quite insightful. So next time you're in the car, Baz, for visiting 55, how did you just do it?
Yeah.
What did you think?
It's great. Like you said, you touched upon it, and I also watched the ref watch or VAR watch or whatever they called it, and listened to the audio, and you could hear. I can't remember the ref's name. Who ref the Wolves Man U game. He's like, "It's collision. We don't give them."
Yeah,
and then and you could hear the process, and he's going, "Well, he's late. It's clumsy. It's late. It's very late." And then going, "Oh yeah, whoa!" But Dawson heads the ball. He doesn't head the ball. It's a collision.
Yeah.
And then check completed. And I'm like, what? Yeah. So basically, it's a human nature to obviously help your colleagues and things like that. So I think that's what's gone in the back of their head. Had gone, right, well, let's help him out here. But it's not really helped him out. He's made him look.
It's just not helped him a bit. Like, because at the end of the day, when you watch it live, it's a penalty when it's live. That isn't it? But then when you watch it back again, it's so clearly a penalty. Mad.
Look at it, 10 seconds penalty. Done. Easy as that. Don't need to have this debate about it. Yeah, I think you should need to go to the monitor. Jared Gillen.
I think it's more for. I've been to a few games this season to watch Scunthorpe, and I think it's more frustrating. I think it's more frustrating supporting a team with VAR and seeing a decision and seeing them get it wrong on VAR and them having that opportunity rather than, because I've come away from the game and my God, obviously, just think what the refereeing's like in the National League North. It's not great, but you come away from the game, you have a bit of a moan, that's such a penalty, that was never a penalty. But that's about it. You kind of forget about it. Yeah. But with these VARs, we're talking about them like all week and like constantly going on about it. And it's more frustrating for, I think, from a fan's perspective, I think.
And probably a referee's perspective as well, because they've probably got lackadaisy with making the decisions because they think VAR's going to help them out.
Yeah, they definitely have.
Refs in there have gone, right, okay, yeah, we'll best back up our ref buddy and say, yeah, we agree with you. And they just need to get the balls out and say, right, actually, I disagree with you. Like me and Scott do constantly. Like we're still mates, I think. He hasn't removed me off Facebook, so that's always promising.
You both disagreed with me this week, to be honest. So,
yeah. It's one of them where I'm thinking, hold on a minute, just disagree with him. Just have a conversation. You can see it in 10 seconds or so. If it's not that clear cut, then it's borderline. You can't. With VAR should only be really, in my eyes, used for offsides because everything else is quite subjective, especially with all the laws and everything like that. Yeah. Is it accidental handball? It's subjective. We don't know if he's falling down. You're going to put your arms down to fall. You don't fall flat on your face unless you're John Terry. And you dive like a salmon. So
I agree with that. But they talk about it in other sports, don't they? They talk about it's implemented in other sports though. Well, tennis, the ball's in or it's out. Cricket, it's in line or it's not. It's hit the batter, it's not.
Challenges in tennis.
Well, this is it.
I said it in a previous podcast. One, I said they should have ex-pros in there because they understand, obviously, how a player would be in a situation. His arms would be in a certain position, and that would be natural. So you could potentially get a biomechanics person in there. But then we're going too far.
We are, exactly.
And I think that's what they far want to get to. I think they just need to simplify it. And I think the rules don't help either as well. And I think it's just too complex. And I'd rather go back to, as Scott touched upon, and go to having no VAR at all. Just have it for offsides. And I think that's
factual decisions, though, isn't it? That's factual.
Yeah, black and white decisions.
Yeah.
Well, I said it before. We talk about people are on offside by armpits. Well, Garnacho was offside by in the width of his ear. Doesn't matter. It's offside. It's offside. It's done. Like that. Yeah. There's no can argue to shut about angles, mate. Like it's offside. So we all move on.
Yeah, that's the thing. No one debates the black and white. We're not here going for bloody hell. You know what? We just deal with it. It's the subjective ones.
Unless obviously players dancing in front of the goalkeeper and he's offside.
It's the worst decision. I would love to know what because it came from VAR. It's not the ref's fault, is it? It's like the VAR one.
I think as well, like the Havertz decision, in the United Arsenal game, obviously that penalty
Yeah.
being overturned. I mean, I know everyone says it's not a penalty. Fine. I think we were very lucky to get that overturned. And actually, if it hadn't been overturned, as a United fan, I'd have gone fair play because he has touched him. And I could see why the referees made a mistake there. Do you know what I mean? It's not in real time. I don't think there's anything really wrong with that. Like, you leave the game, you go, I don't think that should have been a penalty, but I can kind of see why. I wouldn't have been annoyed if it hadn't been overturned. I think we were really lucky there, considering the bar they're saying is a high bar. I don't know. I don't know what your thoughts are on that one.
Yeah, I think we're just talking to ourselves now. I feel like everyone's probably switched off because we've talked about VAR.
Yeah, very true. Very true.
Talk about ages about VAR, to be honest.
Let's wrap up. I thought I'd do one more topic, but anyway, there you go. Thank you very much for everyone for joining us and tuning in this week. Thank you for joining me, Barry and Scott. We'll be back next week with our usual format of our fantasy football podcast. I'm sure we'll touch on some wildcard stuff. We'll touch on the fixtures for the next mini bit of the season over the next 4 weeks before the next international break. It's going to be an interesting 4 weeks. I'm really interested to see sort of how we're talking about these teams in 4 weeks' time, with another blend of fixtures and a couple more home and a couple more away games. So don't forget to follow us on our platforms, social media platforms, AllFootballPod, AllFootballP, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok. Don't forget to give us 5 stars on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever, and like this video on YouTube and subscribe to the channel. Barry, bye for now. Scott, goodbye.
Ta-ra.